Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Mindful Chaos. Today we have Emiliano. Emiliano is a professional dating coach for men. So, Emiliano, hi, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And so I want to start by asking you, tell me a little bit about how did you start with like being a dating coach, which is not really normal, right? It's a new profession, I could say. And what got you into it?
Right, so I'm gonna make the long story short. Essentially, it's a topic that I've been passionate about for a lot of years now. I'm talking about psychology, confidence, social dynamics, and dating in general, right? I graduated as an engineer, right, from university, which is a very different thing from what I'm doing right now. But one of the reasons that I started to get into this kind of topics since I got out of high school was because I was a chaos. I remember back in the day, I was terrible when it came to women, when it came to girls, you know. And it's something that it's not something that a lot of guys are proud to recognize, you know, for obvious reasons. And yeah, that's how I started. I started to read, started to invest a lot in mentorships and do courses and to actually coaches myself, right? And well, I got really good. It's something that I don't want to be presumptuous, but it's something that I mastered to a degree in the way that I could start conversations with women and create genuine, fulfilling, deep connections, right? Okay. Which I think is something that we're all looking for right now.
Totally. So right now that you're talking about this, I was thinking about Tinder, right? I was thinking about Tinder, Bumble, every single one of the like social media that we use in order to like start dating, because right now we don't even know how to talk anymore.
Yeah, dating apps changed the market completely. Let's take a step back for a second here, okay. Right? And when we look at the dating market, not just the dating market, but society, 2-3 decades ago, it was something very different, right? And then technology came into place, and there has been a lot of differences when it comes to what it's like to interact with people nowadays than when it was back then. There's another interesting topic and something that I work a lot with my clients, which is masculinity work. Okay. Right? And it's something, again, I'm very passionate about because there's this tendency, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's this tendency where men are tilting towards one of two extremes, right? One, which is maybe tyrannical manipulators, liars, oppressors, this kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And then the other extreme, which is submissive, that don't go for after what they want. They're just followers. They don't have any sort of leadership skills, and they're fearful, right? Which, in a way, both extremes stem from certain insecurities at the end of the day. Okay. There's some hypotheses on why this is happening, and it's not just hypotheses. I mean, the numbers show that, you know, for example, testosterone levels in men have dropped about 50% in the past 2 decades.
50%?
Something like that.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So actually, don't quote me on that. That's more like 20%. Yeah, 20% in the past 2 decades. Here's another statistic, right? Men between 18 and 30 reporting not having sex, meaning they're virgins, went from 7% to almost 30% since 1990.
Okay, and what is it? What is it that's making, because we have a lot of viewers right now, right? That we all love sex. We all love relationships. We all want to be with someone. So what is it making us like get to that point? What is happening in society that's not allowing us to be in a like good relationship or include like or having sex at a normal age? Like what's happening?
There's a lot of factors involved, and I don't want to assert something that might not be true, but this is what I've seen, right? I'm an expert in dating, right, and communication skills. But from what I've seen in the research that I've done, there's the fact that we're living longer, right? Mm-hmm. The quality of life, it has improved a lot in the average, right? Which means that we're not in a such rush to find a partner ASAP, right? And for example, we have more opportunities than ever in history, right? Obviously, some more than others, but on average, there's a lot more opportunities than there were before. So there's that factor of we have time, right? We don't have to rush anything.
Okay.
There's also the fact, the introduction of dating apps. That was a big one, a really, really big one. There's a lot of men out there that are complaining, I don't know, man, I don't want to, like, I gave up completely on dating. I don't trust women. I'm focused on myself, on my purpose. I'm working on myself, which I think is great. I mean, that's one of the things that men need to do, like to take care of themselves, to take responsibility, right? But they are completely disregarding the social and dating aspect of their life. And this will only come back to haunt them at a later age because they've developed, for example, themselves professionally, financially, personally, mentally, and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, you won't have a fulfilling life if you don't have this area of your life handled.
And right now you're saying that there's a massive lack of trust between both sexes. So where does that come from? Where is that lack of trust coming from both? Like on the woman's side, I can say that it's probably the fact that men are like the predominant cheaters. Men are the predominant like womanizers, you know, they're the players, kind of like I've lived it and I have lived it through my friends. And on the other side, I don't know where that like lack of confidence comes from when it comes to men.
Right. Here's, have you heard of the Pareto law?
No.
Or the Pareto principle? This is the 80-20 principle, okay, right? And it's something that applies to a lot of areas, not just of life, but the universe even. This is something very interesting. I'm an engineer and I've always been a nerd, okay, so I love this kind of stuff. But what this is that, for example, on an economic level in a company, 20% of their clients, of a company's clients, are going to bring the 80% of the revenue, right? 20% of the cities around the world are going to have 80% of the population.
Okay.
20% of the stars in the universe are attracting 80% of the rest of the bodies, planets, and all that stuff, right? It's obviously not an exact or an accurate 80-20, but you get the point, right?
But I don't see it in dating. How would you explain it in dating?
Right. So men that are really high value in terms of financial success, in terms of looks as well, because I'm not going to here to tell you that looks don't matter, but looks, financial success, stability, emotionally, and all this stuff, they realized that they have access to the vast majority of women.
Okay.
Right?
Only that 20%.
Only that 20%. 20 right now, I would say even less than that.
Okay.
You know, and the breach between those men that are having access to the vast majority of the dating market versus the ones that are not having absolutely any opportunity with any women is getting wider and wider, right? And women are seeing that too, right? Because this is something that social media accelerated as well. I always say that I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I'm not going to talk about the good things. There's a lot of good things about social media, but there's a lot of bad things, right? And one of the bad things about social media is that it opened the doors for unlimited options to connect with people, right? Meaning that if a really attractive girl, right, say I don't know, 21, 22-year-old girl that's super attractive, right, gets hit up on the DMs by a really good-looking, successful, I don't know, 30, 40-year-old guy that's going to be like, hey, I'm going to fly you all over to XYZ place, right? I'm not going to say most, but at least some of the girls are going to say yes.
Most of the girls, yeah.
Right? I don't really know, but at least some of them are going to say yes, right? And this was accelerated not only by Instagram especially, but also dating apps, right? Women realize that they have a lot of options in terms of the high value men, but there's no incentive for those high value men to settle with one partner because they're like,
have access to a lot of them.
Exactly. In their mind is like, well, why would I settle with one when I really have access to a bunch of them?
And how do you become a high value man? Like, what makes a man be high value, and how would you tell people to like, oh, this is what you should do?
The work that I do with my clients is very personalized, right? So it really depends on each one. And we do a lot of deep work when it comes to mindset, when it comes to communication skills. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people, especially young guys with this very polarizing content that they see on TikTok or on Instagram, are like, oh, I have to be a millionaire first, right? And I have to be 6 feet tall at least, and I have to be super jacked, otherwise I'm not going to get a girl, right? And until I'm not that, then I'm not even going to try with women, because women, all they care about is looks and money. And I'm not here to tell you again that it's not important, but it's not what women, at least not in a long-term committed relationship.
Definitely.
You know, it's flashy, sure, right? But when things go wrong in a relationship, I mean, you would rather have a man that can handle stressful situations and pressure and knows how to work things out and knows how to create a healthy environment to solve things.
And if you could split it up on like the different like routes that it has in order to be a high value man, what would them be?
I always say that there's 3 pillars in a man's life, right? The first one is health, meaning mental health and physical health, right? Fitness, right? Working out, being active. I think that's a massive impact on your mental and your physical health. That is disregarded by a lot of guys out there. Number 2 is wealth, right? Your profession, your job, your income, your financial situation, right? Again, you don't have to be making 6-7 figures, but the fact that you can have stability when it comes to money, right? And number 3, your dating and social aspect, meaning, are you able to communicate with people? Are you able to communicate with women in a way that they see you as a potential romantic and or sexual partner, right? And there's a lot of men out there that come to me that have the 1 and 2 handled, right? The health and wealth handled. But again, when it comes to women specifically, they're in diapers because they've never had the experience of, oh, I see a cute girl walking down the street in a mall, a park, a coffee shop, right? Not even a bar or a nightclub. I mean, sure, you can do that there, but we just lose so many opportunities in our everyday life to potentially meet our next partner.
And what is an advice you could give in order to like the people to start approaching women? So a man that's scared of approaching someone, what would your advice be?
There's a concept out there called approach anxiety, right? And it's so funny because I don't think women also realize how scary it is for men. Really?
I bet.
Yes, because I mean, rejection is a big deal. It's really not if you analyze it in a logical, rational way, but psychologically speaking, when a girl rejects a guy, she's basically telling him, your genes are not worth reproducing, right? So you might as well just not be here, right?
So it takes a toll on you.
Yeah, 100%. Again, in reality, it's not like that, right? I mean, I've gotten rejected by
several
countless,
women.
Countless, right? Which I think is one of the reasons that I became really good, not only at communicating, at approaching girls, communicating, sparking emotions, interest, attraction, but also creating genuine connections, fulfilling relationships, and also how to transmit that and help my clients get the same results, right?
So that was all through rejection, basically.
Well, it was a big factor, but you don't want to approach 100 times 100 girls just to be rejected 100 girls, right? Yeah. That's what I'm for.
Okay, so what would the advice be?
That it's not a mental process. A lot of guys are like, oh, I have to get over my fears. I have to do some mindset work. I have to go to the therapist. I have to do all this stuff. When in reality, it's a physiological process, right? You have to literally put your right foot in front of your left foot and repeat that process until you reach her position and introduce yourself.
Okay.
Right? There's also guys that are thinking about step number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? It's like, well, how am I going to carry on with the conversation? How am I going to get her number? All this stuff, right? When in reality, you haven't even taken step number 1, so it doesn't make sense.
Also, I want to say something. Woman, be a little bit nicer. Just be a little bit nicer. Like if a guy approaches you and if you don't like them, then it's okay. No, you don't have to like everyone, but be a little bit nicer. It's a man that's trying and putting all of his efforts into coming and talk to you. So, just give a nice no thank you. There's no need to be rude.
Yeah, I would agree that would help. Absolutely. At the same time, I don't think that, one of my philosophies is taking massive responsibility. Okay. Right? Meaning making really sure about what I can control and what I cannot. But most of the times, I can actually control more of the things that I think I do.
Totally.
Right? And again, I think that's a big thing with the masculinity crisis nowadays is that men are not taking responsibility when they should. So absolutely, girls, women out there, if a guy approaches you and you don't really like him, sure, you can reject him politely, kind, nice. And
also men, be responsible.
But that's the thing, that if it's not like, and this is something that I've seen with men out there as well. Oh yeah, I approached this girl and she rejected me, and they just call her names, yeah. And it's like, yeah, she doesn't deserve me and all that. Dude, just accept the rejection in a more mature and healthy way. Sure, she doesn't know you, so she doesn't realize that you're, for example, a guy that has cool hobbies and hangs out with his friends and has a really cool life going on. But at the same time, just accept the fact that maybe she was not in the mood. Maybe her dog just died. Maybe something happened, right?
And how do you work through rejection?
That's a big one. Because we all get rejected. And I think rejection is part of life. And all areas, not only dating and relationships, but also professionally. I mean, when I got out of university, I got rejected by like 5, even 10 companies before I landed a job, right? And I'm pretty sure you've been rejected too.
Ooh.
By people.
Yes.
Again, not just because of personal reasons, but in a lot of areas of life. So the better you handle, I think that's a good predictor of success for people, is how you handle rejections, right? Did they bring you down, or do you try to find what you did wrong so you can adjust the path afterwards? Okay. It's also one of the principles on what I work with my clients, right? We analyze their interactions and we correct the mistakes on what they did wrong and double down on the things that they did right.
So learn from your rejection.
Yeah, learn from your rejections, learn from your mistakes, instead of, again, name calling girls just because they didn't accept.
Okay. Well, Emiliano, that was a really, really interesting topic to talk about. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me again.
And well, on Mindful Chaos, I just want to say thank you so much for coming with us once again. And if you have any questions for Emiliano, I will also leave all of his information on the bio so you can reach out to him. And thank you so much. I'll see you next episode.